Megan, thank you so much for being here and being willing to be honest and authentic and vulnerable and just share your story and your journey because as you know, I've told everyone and as you know, you've had some incredible results. So thank you so much. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited too.
Yay! All right. So let's get started with giving everybody a little bit more about your background from your perspective and kind of how it was that we got introduced and what it was that you were looking for.
Sure. So I had been laid off from my last job in November 2018, and I got an email shortly thereafter, not long after that, about a seminar, a webinar that you were giving at Yale through the Alumni Association or through the Career Services Center. And I listened in, connected with your message. I think the things that I connected with the most were the concept of taking responsibility for my career path, and the idea that you had to like set a certain amount of fear aside in order to pursue what you really want to do.
Sure.
Yeah. So I signed up for your call, your 1 hour intro call, and really felt we connected. So
I totally agree. It was so
yeah,
much fun. Like I will say as a coach, like you look forward to calls like that because you're like, she's gonna be fun to work with, you know? Like I totally agree.
yeah, no, I mean, we clicked. I started my career for real when I left graduate school and moved to Los Angeles to work in the film industry. And I thought as an undergraduate and as a graduate student in communications that that is what I was going to do, that that was going to be my career path. Um, it turns out that it was a lot harder, not necessarily to get the jobs or to keep the jobs, but a lot harder to sort of sublimate my real desires,
Mm-hmm.
what was being asked of me. I was using some of the skills that I love to use, some, but there were things about each of those experiences that caused me to bridle. And when I heard about your program and when I spoke to you,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that having a coach was going to be something that would help me unlock my potential,
Love it.
uh, and help me define, like really crystallize what it is I was looking for, like what it was that made me happy, but also what that could turn into eventually.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. I love that. And I remember when we first, what's funny is I have my notes that I took that day that we talked right here. I just remember you kept saying things like, I want to align these two worlds, like the thing that I love to do on the side, where does that meet this professional world? And do I want to go all in on my side passion thing and put the pressure of monetization on that, or can I find a way to fulfill all these needs that I have within the professional world and still do that on the side for fun,
Right.
which I loved. And so I really thought that based on that conversation, the nth degree process would work wonders in this case because it would give you that, to your point, the verbiage or the way to articulate what it is that you're gifted at and that you've learned how to do over time and that you love doing in such a way that it sounds really professional. And it is a
Mhm.
job, right? It's not
Right.
just a dream or a nice to have or like a bliss state that you can imagine but have no idea what it's called,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. I mean,
Awesome.
I think what I would say also is that I didn't come to the program thinking that I would jettison everything I had done to this point. I just thought that I needed a better way to leverage it. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, and definitely got that out of the program.
That's wonderful. So I want to go a little deeper into that because if you
Sure.
were feeling some need or drive to better leverage, the things that maybe you already knew, and also dig into the ones that you didn't. How did you feel? You tapped into this a little bit. What were the feelings surrounding that, and sort of the manifestations in your life of not having that clarity, of not having that alignment that really brought you to seek outside resources and help because it was getting to the point where you didn't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll answer the second part first.
Yeah.
So the things that I was feeling that led me to feeling that that the program could help. Um, I think that I mean, really, the last job I had was really the catalyst because it was as a senior story editor
Mm-hmm.
for a mobile game. So, and I had been describing it to people when I took the job as the perfect marriage of my creative personal pursuits
Mm-hmm.
and my professional experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it should have been, on paper, it should have been perfect. It wasn't. And I think, really sitting down then and doing the exercises was the early exercises, the now part
Mm-hmm.
was extremely valuable because I was able to work out the fact that there were elements of the job that I did love,
Mm-hmm.
but there were elements of the job that just, they aren't me.
Mm.
They were never going to be me.
Right, which is fine, and
Yeah,
it takes acceptance, and then also like you said, leveraging the things that you do want to do and are good at, and have learned over time that you enjoy doing, right?
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, and also to answer the first part of the question now, the I think that I was caught up a lot in fear.
Mm.
Like I wouldn't have put my finger on that even in our first initial interview. Like I wouldn't have admitted that. But as I was working through the exercises, I think, I said on one of the calls recently that I present as a very positive person.
You do. And I think people watching this are going to say that. They're going to be like, oh, she had a nice to have problem. Like, she just wanted to align things she already knew about herself. Like, people know this girl,
No,
right? Like,
no.
yes.
I use the phrase dark night of the soul. I,
I remember.
I literally at 11 o'clock at night, sitting at my computer, working on exercises and just wrestling with my psyche to
Mm,
get to the point where it was okay for me to admit that this was okay, but this wasn't.
mm-hmm.
And because I was afraid that, honestly, I thought that there were ways in which I thought defining what I wanted to do, like actually stating it and putting
Yeah.
it out into the universe, was slightly arrogant,
Ooh.
slightly, sort of expecting something that I didn't deserve, and somewhat limiting,
Yes.
right? Because I mean, there's the fear
Yes.
that if you define it, suddenly, well, it's your peanut butter problem, right? Like I mean, like you look at all the peanut butters and then you say like, I only want crunchy and half of them are gone,
Yes.
and so I definitely felt that. It's a very apt metaphor and it's one that I'm comfortable with now,
Yeah.
that I wasn't in the beginning.
Megan, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I hear that all the time, that people are like, well, but if I get too specific, what if I'm leaving something out, or what if I miss an opportunity? And I think the mindset shift that needs to happen, and the one that I'm hearing you talking about now, is that actually defining it gives you freedom, because you don't have to worry about any of those distractions anymore. So instead of those feeling or looking like opportunities, which they do now because you don't have clarity into what it is that you really want, once you distill that down and define it, then you're free from all the other crap that could take your attention and your time and your anxiety and your worry and your focus. And you get to put all of that towards something that really is you, that you would
Yep.
love to do, and is a manifestation of your highest self. So
Yeah.
I love that you shared that, because I know that people are watching feel the same thing, because I hear it in every other clarity call. When I start to talk about how we're going to narrow this down and what that's going to look like, people are like, whoa, 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 I don't know if I want to be that specific. I don't want to limit myself from what's out there. And in reality, I think that that's the key to happiness, is not, it's not limiting in the traditional sense, it's freeing,
Yes.
actually. So I
Yes, it
love
is.
that. You're so
It
awesome.
is.
Thank you. I selfishly, I was so excited about this, because I'm like, she's so good at wordsmithing. Like, we're just going to have fun, talking about things that are pretty complicated. But I think
Yeah.
that you've always had a beautiful sense of, the entire time that you're in the program, leaning in, doing the
Hmm.
hard things, and
Hmm.
then being able to make them your own. So
Yes.
articulating them in a way that made sense to you and resonated with you, that was in line with the structure of the program, but was personal.
Right.
was absolutely 100% Megan and nobody else. So
Right.
love
Right.
that. So what had you tried previously as you were, this growing frustration and the fear is mounting and the job that you thought was perfect wasn't? What did you try in the past that, maybe had some success, no success, that kind of led you to keep looking for resources?
So I'm a battle worn veteran of the job boards.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dum dum dum.
dum, dum, dum. Um, and the thing about them is that I have had success finding positions off of job boards, um, and they turned out to be pretty good jobs for the most part. But again, those jobs after a while always left me searching for something. So I knew that it wasn't a perfect solution, and I knew especially that after this the most recent position, the last position, that it was not serving me well. It was not the complete picture. Other things that I had done, I'll speak very openly and honestly. Like, I've been in therapy for years, so I've leaned on my therapist and
Me
talked
too,
through some of the
girl.
things. Yeah, I don't have any shame about it. It's been very valuable, because it's always good to have a sounding board.
Yes.
And sort of, and for lack of as objective an observer as you're going to get in your life.
I totally agree. My mom and I have always been big proponents of, like, talk it out, man. Like, you
Yeah.
let it all stew in there. Like, only
Yeah.
God knows what's gonna come out eventually. So that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then honestly, some other things that I had done, will not be a surprise to you because they're part of the Nth Degree, which are some of the assessments online, which, are valuable to a certain point. But when you're doing them alone and you're doing them without context, don't necessarily amount to actionable.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just you can learn so much about yourself, but it's very interior oriented, whereas applying it is a completely different ballgame.
Yeah. You're
Yeah,
so true. And even sharing it with someone else is like, well, this kind of made sense to me, but is the way that I'm talking about it even professional? Is it valuable? Do I know how that translates into the business world? Assessments are great. I'm a big fan. I use assessments professionally. Obviously, you just mentioned that they're used in the program. But to your point, like, I love this metaphor. I feel like I've always told people doing all of that introspective work on yourself alone, as you mentioned, is like doing open heart surgery on yourself. You're like,
yeah,
the perspective is all wrong. It's really messy. You don't have anybody, like, guiding you through the process. And even if you're a surgeon, that's not going to go well.
right.
Right. So I definitely resonate with you on that level of having a guide or having a strategy or a framework that is contextualized, as you
Right.
said, makes all the difference.
It does, and and this is the point at which I would like to say that one of the other exercises, the interpersonal mirror,
Yes.
is extremely valuable for this sort of thing, because all this time you're sitting there thinking about yourself and know how you think you present, but until you ask the other people in your life from a number of different perspectives and different situations in your life how they perceive you, you're never going to know. You're never going to know. It was a really great exercise.
Yay! It's literally one of my favorites. Like, after the whole, level setting and foundational stuff like core values and commitments, which I think is really crucial. I just absolutely love that exercise because it's also really edifying. Like, when you talk to people in your life and you ask them what are the best things about me, and that gives you insight not only into how they see you, but like all the awesome things that you might have forgotten about. It always gives you the, all the feels.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mentioned, like, in a call after I had worked on that and started getting feedback from people, that there were things that people mentioned, that many people across different walks of life mentioned, and I thought they never noticed.
Yes. That's the thing, right? Though that's why this stuff is so hard to do by yourself in a vacuum, because you don't even notice or recognize sometimes that what you naturally do is important, is unique,
Right.
is valuable, is special, has has value, is valuable, right? Like you
Right.
don't realize that because it just comes so easily and naturally to you, and you haven't maybe ever leveraged it in a professional setting or set yourself up by success or for success by doing more of it. So you're 100% right. It's for me, I remember that being a huge game changer in my own professional journey, and that's why I added it into the program, because I was like, well, this is brilliant. Like, if we can find a really easy way for you to get insight from your family and friends that is as objective as possible and without their sort of, opinion lording over you, but it's helpful, that was the ticket. That was the key.
Yeah.
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 Beautiful.
Very valuable.
I love it. Okay, so you also mentioned that, our initial conversation was one of the keys in making your decision for us to work together. So if you could distill down maybe the handful of reasons why you finally were like, yes, I'm signing on the dotted line, I'm making the investment. What were those things?
Yeah. So I think the thing that, there's your energy, and there was your clear, facility with dealing with someone like myself who was absolutely in need of some guidance. Like you were very generous with your time to begin with. And I felt that if you were that generous initially, that making the investment and signing on for the program meant that I was going to have, for lack of a better word, a sort of career mentor.
Yeah.
To a degree. And, so I think that the other things that really impressed me, were things that you and I talked about from the initial webinar that I had listened to, which I just felt that your steps, the way that you broke it down, was clear, concise, and actionable. And that was so key to me, that it wasn't just going to be this theoretical thing, that there were going to be steps that I could take in a very regular, set way that were going to help me develop and achieve what I wanted to achieve.
I love that. Thank you for saying that too, because I'll tell you, I never felt, and this is me being totally transparent with this process, because it took me about 3 years to come up with the Nth Degree strategy as a coherent framework. And I did that through one-on-one coaching. And I just never felt good about coaching as a practice, because to me, I was like, well, if somebody wants sort of indefinite coaching or indefinite help with a problem that I see as actually kind of a more definite problem, like hate job, want job I don't hate / love, I didn't feel good about telling somebody, well, I don't know how long that's going to take, so you're going to pay me until we figure it out together. I wanted to be able to go to somebody and say, hey, I have a program that works in exactly X period of time for X dollars. You're going to have this, this, and this. Do you want it or not? Right? That just felt really more authentic to me. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't care for coaches or don't like one-on-one coaching as a practice. I think there's definitely a place and time for it. And I personally have several coaches that I pay for ongoing accountability and help. And even though you think you might have a definite problem, sometimes it becomes more indefinite, because once you get the job you love, then it's keeping the job you love, and then it's progressing in the job you love. And so I get it. But for this program in particular, I wanted clear wins, and I wanted a framework that would take somebody who was really fearful and not maybe recognizing that they were afraid to feel confident in taking steps forward, because the steps were very clear.
Right.
This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. You do them in this order. When you're done, you're going to have this outcome. And to be honest, I was shocked when I was able to distill down from all those one-on-one conversations, which were people in different industries, people with different backgrounds, people of different ages, that there was just this very clear framework that if they did all the steps, they'd get what they wanted. To this day, kind of like I still get, goosebumps, like pinch myself. I'm like, oh, I think I discovered something pretty cool. And it's nothing revolutionary, right? They weren't, some of the concepts, yes, I think you have even said already that you're like, wow, that was really powerful. And I didn't think of it that way before. But I'm not the grand Oz. I didn't come up with something out of the, clear blue sky that's never been done before. It's just, I think the packaging and the programmatic sense of it is really what's powerful and impactful. So I appreciate you saying that, because that makes my little entrepreneur creator heart feel very good. So I want to dig into a little bit around the decision making process a little bit more, and then start to get into how
Sure.
the actual program was for you. So when you made that decision, making financial investments and investments of your time, and then choosing to overcome a fear like that can be really conflicting. You can feel really excited on the one hand, but also nervous that it might not work for you. So how did it feel making the decision? And then what were the things that you did to really capitalize on the investment that you made?
Yeah. So I would actually say that the decision was at least partially somatic, in
Mm-hmm.
that I felt like the decision to make the investment,
Mm-hmm.
um, sped my heart up a little bit.
I remember I was too super excited too. And like I said, selfishly, because I was like, I get to listen to her magical voice for 8 weeks. This is amazing. So, and I just, like I said, we did bond, and for the record, people watching, we didn't know each other from Adam. She had watched a webinar, we had an hour call, and like, it was wonderful. And I think that's another important thing for people to realize too, is like, if you're going to work with somebody and you're going to get this honest with them, and
Yes.
it needs to be the right coach for you, and it needs to be the right program for you.
Right.
So yeah. So to your point, anyway, sorry, go on.
No, no. So there was there were physical symptoms of making the decision. And, and as I'd mentioned, like, because it was a financial investment at a time at which, I had just been laid off basically, it was a significant investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to actually, have a conversation with my long-term boyfriend and be honest with him about, having the conversation with him was interesting in that it helped me clarify what I thought I was going to get out of it.
Yes.
And that is what really spurred me to treat it. And I know that not everyone, considering the program or doing the program now has this luxury, but I was able to treat it like a full-time job.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that was amazing. But I decided that if I was going to commit that kind of, financial investment,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to commit to 8 weeks, I was going to give it as much of my time as possible.
Great.
And, and actually, one of the things I want to mention is that that the exercise sheets have a airing of grievances.
Tell us about
Really
that.
brilliant touch. So that before you start out to work on an exercise sheet, that you list the things that would keep you from participating in it fully and honestly. At first I was like, oh, I don't need to do this. I'm all in.
Right? I get it. I totally get it. I would do the same thing, to be honest. And I'm the one who wrote the exercise sheet. So you're like, I'm good. I'm focused. I just watched the video. It's fine. Yeah. But
But there were things as simple as me having to write down and admit that I was hungry, so that even before I could actually, so doing that though made it so that I was able to take full advantage of the exercise, right? So if I typed in that I was hungry, I was like, oh, damn it, go get a snack and pay attention to what you're doing, So
yes. And that if it's like something that's totally overwhelming your mindset, that, either you choose to honor that and put the sheet aside for that time and come back to it when you can be a little more clear, or you can write it down and say, you know what? This will be there when I'm done, and I'm going to put it aside for an hour and just focus on the task at hand. So
exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
And I love calling it the airing of grievances for all you Seinfeld people out there. That just made my heart happy. So that's what it's called in the program. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So, and some of the other grievances that I had were more serious, like, literally things that I felt resistance to.
Yes.
So, a big one for me was background check.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not everyone's going to have had a happy, rosy, unicorns and rainbows childhood.
Yep.
And going back over that, there were periods of my life in 5-year increments that were very difficult to confront.
Mm-hmm.
And so, having aired my grievances ahead of sitting down to actually do those parts, I got through the tough parts.
That's awesome.
And it was all relevant.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because there's nature and nurture, And I, doing the background check helps you see where some things are coming from, which
Yeah.
they, yeah.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So you've gotten into a little bit of your first, couple experiences within the program and some of the exercises. And so what was your experience initially beginning, and then what were some of the first insights that you felt like you started to gain through all of those exercises and videos?
Actually, so I think one of the most important things that I learned pretty early on was that I had been referring to myself as lazy in my head, and I, doing just the fact of doing the exercises proved that I wasn't.
Yes.
I mean, it was actual tangible proof that I was making an effort, and that I was trying to do something to better myself and to better my situation.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, and then
That must have been a little unexpected.
that I wasn't lazy.
Well, no, that you were calling yourself that and that it was having an
Yeah.
impact on
Oh,
your
yeah.
behavior and performance. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and it just to digress slightly. I mean, there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance in it. I mean, because on the one hand, all of the people in my life have been telling me what a hard worker and sort of what a nonstop person I am when I've got a project that I really care about. And in my head, I'm telling myself I'm lazy. Come on, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just it's not productive. And actually, one of the other exercises included the parts about reframing.
Mm.
And so you think about things in one respect, and you should. I mean, for example, you should never think like I'm never going to get a job that suits me. It's a matter of finding the one that suits you.
Correct.
And so it's recasting it.
Yes.
And so the exercises are excellent for doing that because you catch yourself. I mean, as you are actually typing out or writing down the negatives, you learn to catch yourself and recast it in a positive.
I love that. And yeah, I remember very early on you even having just this whole new sense of self in the calls. Like you participated in a different way, you were excited in a different way. There was a lot of anticipation at the beginning, but when you started to have these initial insights, it was like, oh, heck yeah. And then there was momentum, and then there was excitement. And
Yeah.
and you guys, like, this girl is a rock star because like this is an 8-week program, and it's some of this stuff is hard to get through, and some of it takes, a couple hours to complete. And she was emailing me in the middle of the week, like, can you open the next module? Can you open the next module? And I was like, this is every coach's dream. Because you just leaned in. You just leaned in. And I think you were open to the unexpected insights, and you were definitely participatory in the process. And even when you didn't have confidence in yourself or confidence in the program, you let me be your confidence. And that is the key to, I think, this program really working is the only people that I've ever seen who've come in contact with the Nth Degree who did not get out of it what they wanted, refused to do the work. Whether it was because of fear or something they couldn't get over or a hang up about networking or whatever, any little piece, the background check, being vulnerable. If you're not willing to go there, then maybe you're not ready for that extraordinary life that you say that you want. But if you are, then leaning into the process is the best way to get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're living
Absolutely.
proof.
Thank you.
Yay. That's really beautiful. So, do you want to add any comments about like what it was like on the calls or working directly with me, or any other insights into the program that we haven't talked about?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the calls were great because, the ramping up, like doing the early stuff, you're still a little bit, like I was still a little bit at a loss. I wasn't sure where things like background check were going to go.
Yes.
And so being able to listen to other people who were at different stages while on the calls
Yes.
was truly valuable, because it helped me know what I was aiming for. Because I mean, that's the other thing. Like, I'm a very goal-directed person.
Yeah.
So if you can tell me and show me where I'm supposed to get to, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
So the calls were amazing. And then as far as like working with you, I felt that, as listening to you work with other people on the calls, as well as interacting with me specifically, like you're just so to the point. You are. No, I mean, it's like, it's very, you're very concise. You're very illustrative. Like, you always have a good, like, you've got the principle, provide the principle that I need to take away, the thing that I need to take away, and then you provide an example. And that's like, that kind of reinforcement that's how you educate someone. That's how you teach them how to do for themselves.
Yeah.
And so I never felt like you were trying to push me in a certain direction at all.
Good.
But yet I got there.
Yes.
Yeah. I found my way. But you provided the guidance. You provided the structure for getting there. So that's what it was like working with you.
Yay, thank you. That means so much to me because, as someone facilitating the program, sometimes I want the result more for people than they seem to want it themselves. Yeah. And that's a big struggle as a coach. And it's something that you can't fix, right? Like, I can't want it more than somebody else wants it. But I do want people to hear that, Megan, you were in this program with people doing totally different things from you, different industries, different backgrounds, different ages, different desires. And yet the process itself and my facilitation right with each of you led you to your own realizations, because the framework works regardless, I think, of where and how you're coming into it. Right? Industry-wise or role-wise or seniority-wise, or even what you want. If you want to start a business or if you want a 9-to-5, it's really about creating that clarity for each individual. And then I fall on the sword a lot. Like, I use myself as an example, and anybody who's listened to anything or read anything that I've ever done knows I've been fired, knows I quit a job without a plan, knows that, I've done sort of everything wrong in a career, but I found my way to something I love. And to me, that I just love being able to be on that same page as you guys, of like, I know how you feel, and no, I can never know the exact pain you're going through, but have I said things like dark night of the soul before? Yes. So thank you for that. It just means a whole lot. And it's impossible to know what you're getting into before you get into it. Right. And any investment like this is going to be scary, no matter how much insight you get out of it at the outset. But I think too, it's important for people to hear, the right people who are going to resonate with me and resonate with this program are going to be thinking the things that you're thinking, and have the same worries and doubts and fears. And so for them to know what your experience was like with us working together is fabulous. Yay. So, okay, we've buried the lead all along. So now I want you to tell everybody your success story, because I know that at the beginning, and like I said, I get to literally read this from my notes, you guys. There was just these things where you felt like you had two sides that you wanted to align, and you weren't sure about how to deal with these frustrations that you had in that job that you previously had that were manifestations of success, like leadership and managing people and managing a budget and projects, but you just didn't resonate with them. You didn't enjoy them. And so you're trying to figure out, well, how do I be successful not doing these things that people are telling me successful people do, basically. Right. And that confusion and that frustration definitely came out in our first call. But you, my dear, had such an amazing transformation, and so quickly, that you guys, like, she got from, not in 8 weeks, not in 7 weeks, but in 6 weeks, her dream job in her niche, doing her thing, and now she's off to the races. So can you talk about that a little bit and share that experience with everybody?
Yeah, happily.
Of course, happily.
Yeah. So let me start by saying that my success is a direct result of some of the exercises. So as I was saying, my core values, I think, the core value exercise was really successful for me. And I think one of the things that, one of the examples of getting over a fear was finally admitting to myself. I mean, I knew that creativity was important to me. I knew that collaboration was important to me. I didn't know how important it was to me until I had to rank my values, and it was very important.
I remember that insight being very crucial.
It's like number 2 on the list. Creativity is the first, and collaboration is the second. And then just things like, and then integrating things like wanting to make sure that I could work on multiple things at the same time because I'm easily bored. You know, that was a revelation. And then the single most important value that I was able to distill for me was the idea of flexibility. That I need, as you alluded to earlier, like I have my personal projects, I have my personal writing, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to monetize that I wanted to affect the way that was going by putting the pressure of having to earn a living off of it on it. And so I think that realizing that flexibility was so important to me, and then moving into making those into core commitments was brilliant. So like taking it and turning them into action statements that I could then hold every opportunity up to, just it jives with what I have determined is important to me. Just such a good set frame, like a good frame. And then I started to do informational interviews. Like all I was doing was like the networking section, the networking module. And the first person on my list, I emailed him at 9:00 one morning, and at 10:00 that same morning, he emailed me back and said, "I'm going to be in your neighborhood. I'm busy for the next 2 weeks, but if you can meet today, let's have lunch, and I might have an opportunity for you." And I was like, okay, this is going too fast.
You're like, surely not.
Like, it's not going to be this easy. So what I ended up doing was I dropped everything. I went to have lunch with him. And he did, in fact, have an opportunity that was very interesting to me. So what I'm doing now is I'm contracting with him. I have a great deal of flexibility in my day. I have a creative team that I'm working with, and it's a small team. So having a lean, collaborative team was very important to me. So it's essentially a startup. It's contributory, which was another one of my core values and one of my core commitments, was to make sure that whatever I do next is not something that is just a job, that it has some meaning behind it, that I'm serving the audience that's going to use the project or the product. So this has a very specific social justice angle, this project that I'm working on. And when I spoke to my friend, he pitched it to me as, you write your job title, essentially. What
on earth? And what's amazing is that you were in the driver's seat in that conversation. So you knew what you were looking for, and you knew whether or not that was going to fit all those commitments. And I love it. I love it.
No, I mean, it is actually addressed in the program that you may end up writing your own job title. You might end up creating your own job. And because honestly, like, there's no sense in pursuing something that's going to pigeonhole you or just jam you as a round peg into a square hole.
Totally.
Like, it's like, it doesn't, I just feel that if I hadn't done all of these exercises, I wouldn't have been able to look at him and say, I need X, Y, and Z. If you can provide that, we can work together, and not be afraid of him saying no. Because it would be more damaging to me that he would say no, or it would be more damaging to me to accept something that didn't jive with my core commitments and core values than it would be to lose the opportunity.
And that is literally why I think those commitments are so foundational, and why they make life so much easier. So much easier. And then what was cool about your situation was, now that you're contracting, you're like, okay, I could take on another project or another project. And then I know you got contacted by a big company, and you were like, let me just hear them out. And I remember you saying that, and I was like, hell yeah, like, she is in control, because you had done the hard work first. And you had earned the right to say, I don't want that. I do want that. Because you had taken the time that it takes to invest in yourself and to be really true and honest with what you did and what you didn't want. And the only reason that you lose sleep over opportunities that, to your point, don't serve you and don't make any sense at all is because you didn't do the work ahead of time to know whether or not that was going to be a good opportunity for you. And not all opportunities are created equal. And
That's right.
the big mind shift I think that you made.
Yes, that is absolutely true. And since we talked last, I've been contacted by two other large companies. So I'm actually in the process of having a conversation with one of them about doing some contract work for them instead of coming on as a full-time employee.
That a girl.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I mean, it's just it. It was, I guess it was always, the possibility was always there. I just was afraid to let myself go for it. And I'm just not afraid anymore.
Yay. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay, so what would you say to somebody who's listening to all this and maybe they're still a little bit naysayer? There's, I don't know if that'll work for me, and maybe she's special, and maybe it's because they hit it off. What would you say to somebody who's really considering this program, but still doubting or still questioning themselves?
I would say that, I mean, first, let me just say that having participated in the coaching calls, I can hear that some other people may have, who are in the program with me at the same time, may have had that kind of opinion.
Yeah.
And
this is even after making the investment, which is the crazy part, right?
Right, right. So what I want to say pertaining to that is that virtually every single one of them, I can hear a shift in their voices as they go through the material.
Yes.
And as they continue to work with Tracy, as they continue to work with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Because no, but it's true. I mean, it's just true. Like they're all slowly finding their way toward making the best decisions for themselves and making incremental changes. And that's the other really big thing about it, is that when you commit to the idea that it's going to take 8 weeks to get through the material and to get through the program and to participate fully,
Yes.
that is it kind of frees you up.
Yeah.
In a way. Like it gives you space to think about this. It gives you, it gives you, like, making this commitment and making this investment is a way to give yourself permission to explore this and to prove that it works.
Yes. I love it. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up? Because I get so warm and fuzzy when you talk. But you're so right. And I'm so appreciative that you're willing to share your experience, because that one of the number one things I hear from people is that they're afraid, right? That what if I'm the only one that this doesn't work for? Or what if I make this investment and I get to the end and I don't have what I wanted? And I think you're living proof that the only way to do that is to be too afraid and not invest at all in yourself,
right,
or in your career, or to come into it but not fully lean in.
Right.
Otherwise, you have an amazing chance at a career and a life that you love, that is extraordinary and dynamic as you want it to be, and as free as you want it to be, and finally as true to you as you want it to be.
Right. That's right. I mean, I would also just say that the program is going to provide the tools, but tools don't mean anything unless you actually use them. I feel that the program worked for me because, as you say, I was willing to lean in. I learned the tools. I picked up the tools. I put them to use, and I had you cheering me on. And that's a huge bonus.
Yay!
Having a cheerleader in your corner.
Woohoo! I've just been so proud of you. I've loved watching your transformation and your journey, your joy to work with, and now you're going to give your gift and realize this potential to the world, which who knows like what ripple effects that's going to have. So it's truly an honor. I love what I get to do, and I mean every day, like I said, I'm still sort of in shock and awe that I found distilled this program and that it has been so successful. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and for just being so open and honest with everyone who's going to watch this, and congratulations on the rest of your amazing life and career.
Thank you. My pleasure.